A lot of moving pieces when we're talking about litigation against a state gun ban and registry, and it looks like you've got a possible federal lawsuit being filed on top of a federal lawsuit that's already filed to challenge the law in federal court. This after you've got now 3 cases in state court. One was filed in Crawford County. That is yet to advance. The other was filed on behalf of 866 clients of attorney Thomas DeVore, plaintiffs in a case, including some gun stores, that was filed in Effingham County. They had an emergency hearing on Wednesday last week. Friday evening, the judge in that case in Effingham County issued a temporary restraining order against the state's gun ban and magazine ban. And then you had yesterday, attorney DeVore now filing a second lawsuit in state court, this one in White County, where he now has 1,690 plaintiffs on board. While all of this is going on, the state's attorney general defending the governor and the state's Democratic legislative leaders by filing an appeal to the Effingham County temporary restraining order yesterday in the 5th Appellate Court. So there's a lot of moving pieces here. But let's talk with one of the plaintiffs, top of the line for the case that DeVore brought in White County yesterday, and that is former state senator and former Republican gubernatorial candidate Darren Bailey. He joins us now with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop. Senator, thanks for taking time. How you been?
Hey, good morning, Greg. Well, I'm doing great. We're still involved in the fight, and you know, we warned people that it would be a fight if we didn't get our house in order, and we didn't get our house in order. We let it get a little more out of unkept, and now we're dealing with these rogue issues. I mean, you look at what took place in the lame duck session, and 95%, 98% of the business even that was taken, that was dealt with there was, I believe, most of it was unconstitutional in the way it was held. But just a sweeping advance of J.B. Pritzker's agenda to control through legislation and ram his policies. Through the state via the government. So it's frustrating. So here we are, something that we talked about for a long time. Gun advocates and Second Amendment supporters talked about this gun ban. We didn't think it'd ever happen, and this is how it starts. And I'm just thrilled that people are mad. They're angry, they're frustrated, they're finally realizing the importance of being involved in government and making sure that the good people get elected to office.
I'm scrolling through the litigation here filed in White County, and it is just name after name after name after name. And this after 866 plaintiffs. In the other case, Senator, this is 1,690 names, including dozens of gun stores spanning 92 counties, I'm told. Is this a small minority that are filing lawsuits here, as the governor says that there are?
Absolutely not. And the reality is there's 2.5 million FOID card holders in the state. So I want people to ask themselves, where were you at during the election? That's enough of a vote to win an election. And I'm not going to be naive enough to believe that every one of them are, staunch Republicans, but they're holding their FOID cards for a reason, so they can, enjoy their Second Amendment freedom. So I'll tell you what, my phone and email and Facebook messaging is blowing up because Tom gave people a 24-hour period from Saturday, Sunday to sign on to this the new lawsuit once Tom got it drafted, and there's still now a lot of angry people that are frustrated because they didn't hear about it in time. I blasted it across social media, and there's a lot of people that didn't realize that this was taking place, and they're wanting a third suit, or they wanted the time extended. So no, this is the I've always said it is the Second Amendment that protects the First, and this is going to have people very upset and fighting mad, and so no, there is by no means. He's referred to the fringe minorities, the fringe elements for a long time, and this gentleman he doesn't get it, he doesn't understand, and unfortunately, the past election, not enough people stood up to stand against him. So things got to get a little worse before they get better, and that's exactly what's happening.
So we'll talk a little bit about the election coming up. I want to get your reaction to the chair of the GOP here in Illinois, Don Tracy, in a conversation I had with him yesterday. But just real quick on this lawsuit, of course, you're named at the top. You've got State Representative Adam Niemerg, State Representative Blaine Wilhauer, adding to the 1,600 plus individuals that are now filing suit on this. You were in the state legislature in the House and the Senate. Talk about why the three readings rule is important. Talk about why the procedures here that seem to be regular at the tail end of session, be it spring session, be it fall session, be it lame duck session, seems there's a pressure campaign of sorts with a Russian doll game, hide the ball in the cup type thing. What's going on there, and how is that detrimental to fundamental democratic operations in a state like Illinois?
Well, I think that's what's so beautiful and genius about these lawsuits that Tom has filed, because that really is where it emphasizes the focus at, is the procedure of which bills become laws, and he argued that is the main, that's the anchor point of this lawsuit, to get a judge to take a look at this and to realize, and that's why I said most of the legislation in lame duck was unconstitutional, because there is a process of which this things take place, and a bill gets submitted to a committee, and then once the bill is submitted, there's, as you suggested, this three readings rule. Well, one thing I discovered being elected as a new representative in 2019, it became very evident very quickly that the party in control makes the rules, and that's basically what our the 92-page plus rule book says. In the House and the Senate, Robert's Rules of Orders, it's out the door. So these guys continually and habitually, they will suspend rules. They'll amend the bill, and basically we have 1 hour to push back and to understand what it was that they spent months, weeks, days, drafting, and the people have no voice in the process, and that's exactly how this and really almost every bill that came out of lame duck session that was passed, even when you're arguing it on the floor, when you're arguing, I think I did this actually when I stood up and talked against this 5417, the gun bill. I stood up and said I'd like to talk to the bill. No, you're talking to the motion. You're not talking to the bill. You're talking to the motion that was made to amend the bill, and so they get that part right. Gosh, Greg, it's time that we stand up and that we allow this process to work for the people, and that is certainly not happening right now.
Former State Senator Darren Bailey with us. He was also the Republican candidate for governor in the November 2022 election, and it was a pretty brutal primary earlier in the year, Senator, with 6 different candidates going up against each other. You had, of course, the ultimate outcome being you were on top of that 6-way race. I believe it was Jesse Sullivan actually got second. Aurora Mayor Richard Irvin got third, but there were some allegations that the GOP favored Irvin in the primary, which they are supposed to have a neutral approach. GOP Chairman Don Tracy denies that there was any bias in that, but he did say in an interview I had with him yesterday that he's forming a committee to look at whether or not the party having a neutral position in the primary is sustainable, considering you've got, the billionaire J.B. Pritzker, who funded the Democratic Governors Association to prop your campaign up, allegedly, for the purpose of, having somebody easier to knock out. And Tracy said that you were regionally popular, but not in the suburbs. Your response to some of what Tracy said about your popularity, but also about the idea of removing some kind of neutrality from the party position when it comes to primaries?
Well, I've been very patient with Don Tracy and the Republican Party, and I did my due diligence in thinking, okay, I'm just going to lay low here. They'll get their act together. They'll figure things out, and the whole state, will be able to work together once again. But it has become blatantly evident that is not taking place. I listened to your interview yesterday, and I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a 24-hour period, because in the past when Don has done things such as this, he's called me and said, Darren, you missed it. It didn't mean to say what I said, and wasn't supposed to sound that way. Well, the game's up. He said what he said. He meant what he meant. when people, when weak Republicans and weak leaders lose and don't get what they want, well, it's like child play. You point the finger, somebody's got to take the blame. It's got to be someone else's fault other than mine, right? Well, that's exactly what's going on here, and the game's up. It's time for I'm going to ask Don Tracy to do the noble thing. It took Jim Durkin years to figure it out. He and I butted heads from day one, and I called it what it was. It was weak leadership, and he finally stepped down. And I'm going to call Don Tracy to do the right thing and to step down and let the people have control of the party and the political elite. It's simply not working. The Republican Party is failing because the Republican Party is not standing on its platform. People in Chicago, they don't know who to vote for. They might as well vote for the Democrats because they're the ones that are shoving bills, good, bad, right, wrong, and different. You walk down the halls of Springfield when legislation's taking place. You're there. Nobody's there to see any Republican. They're there to talk to the Democrat leaders to get their ideas and their bills through. So the reason I still believe, we have a low turnout because the Republican Party didn't join me in the fight to push for mail-in voting, to push for voter turnout. We knew that if we had we knew we was going to have the problems that we had. We knew if we had a 60% turnout across most of the state, that we'd win, and a 45% turnout simply didn't cut it, and it didn't cut it because people were simply disillusioned. My vote doesn't count. Chicago controls the process. That's what happened, and the Republican Party was not there to help message that. They stood idly by with their hands in their pocket because they didn't have a candidate that would compromise the values like most other candidates have in the past. So that's the kind of nonsense that it's time to call out. It's time to rally the troops. It's time to get our party under control. Our problems exist from the top down, and the solutions are only going to come from the bottom up. When people get involved as precinct committee people and start ousting these weak county leaders, get them out of the way. Then we have a stronger state central committee, and then we start electing the right people and holding them accountable to do the job. So no, I'm simply not buying that. Republicans can win, but we can only win when we get our act together and we quit compromising our values to these Democrat weak woke ideology that's simply destroying our state and obviously destroying our nation. It's embarrassing what's taking place right now. So,
Former State Senator Darren Bailey, that is all the time we've got. Greatly appreciate you taking the time. We'll definitely be talking again in the near future, all right?
All right.
It is Springfield's Morning News, now 6:55 on WMAY.
It's time to apply at Culver's West on Wabash. We're hiring all positions.